what's done is done. I choose not to accept that, and I think that if all of us, if we all take an active role in, again, communicating to those people that have made this decision without public input, that our desire is that this not be ended, but further considered.
Yeah.
So
That's
please.
what you're looking for, the outcome of this meeting.
Exactly. Well, we're looking for a chance to actually share information that was not readily available to you. Did anybody learn anything here tonight?
Yeah. Now, the one thing that we learned was on Friday, EMS had to come out to Postville to take Janelle Friedrich to the hospital where she later died. We found out at that point, because we'd gotten a postcard a couple days before this consolidation was occurring. We heard nothing about it before the postcard. And then we got ourselves some more information during that call. And it enlightened us to want to come down and find out what our situation was going to be like in the town of Norton if New Glarus EMS dissolved. And you've enlightened me even further that we'll be basically relying on Greene County EMS because, like I said once before, there's no way the finances are going to allow you guys to continue to operate long-term off of 3 townships, partially off of 3 townships too, because you're not even covering the whole township. So as the population grows to the edge of the epic ring, which is what it comes down to,
Yeah.
these folks, they're not even aware that this is occurring because they're so immersed in their lives in the Madison market. So, I mean, all we can do is we can lobby our town supervisors and ask them how to try to prevail a position to take a longer term study, to drag it out longer, to see if it makes sense. And if it does make sense, how we could make it so everybody's still getting responses without people out there dying or me trying to get somebody loaded up in an SUV to the hospital because I know that it's gonna be 30 minutes before anybody gets out to me to take care of a major injury. That's why we came.
I would say wait for the regional planning commission to come out with their study.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, if they should have the majority of the data. This is what they are made to do, so they should be able to provide some type of analysis at the end of it. Of course, this is what the village is paying for through the innovation planning grant, which they receive. That's taxpayer money from every single one of us.
Yep.
But didn't you say that's not coming out until March?
It is not, yeah, it's at least the slated timeframe. I know, but I'm just saying in terms of making a further decision, like past that point.
Okay, so-
Obviously, you can decide what you wanna do now, you know, with the contracts and all that.
If you look back at some of the news cycles, you were talking about Marshall. Marshall is in a pickle because of their decision to move to Sun Prairie. So the cost to Marshall residents is gonna go way up. And we're gonna all see that on our tax bills if that happens in Greene County if you guys dissolve, so.
One of the things, stop. One of the things that the steering committee brought up too, they asked for our volunteer hours over the last 10 years. And they saw a decline in 12,000 volunteer hours over that time. Well, yeah, people have to probably keep continuing to work because of how our economy is. So they're dropping 12,000 hours out there in volunteer time. Guess what? They never asked my hours. They never asked my part-time assistant chief's hours. His hours alone are over 14,000 hours during that 12,000 hour decline. So there's.
That's, again, it gets back to someone who doesn't understand EMS. He admitted that in the first meeting. I don't understand EMS. I don't understand 501c3s. He was asking for information and then making inferences from it. Again, I was asked to provide the volunteer hours at New Glarus EMS. We did so. And then they came back with this crazy claim that it's unsafe. These people are working more hours than are safe. And it's like, you didn't factor the paid employees into that, but good job. So again, I'm trying not to be critical, but I will state this one more time. a decision was made, a very long-reaching, far-reaching decision was made based on misinformation.
Incomplete at best.
Incomplete information, but misinformation in several instances, yes.
There's a question over there, and I also, while you're walking the mic over there, I want to say that while they might want to complain about volunteer hours decreasing, still never dropped a call. They got to pay attention to that. The service is delivered high quality from your friends and neighbors, from people like me that come in from outside communities to volunteer here because this EMS is that good. We never drop a call, no matter whether we have members on medical leaves of absence
Well, I sure.
or any other reason. Thank you. So they're looking at one side of things and not another too, aside from looking at them sort of slantwise.
Well, I have a few comments, and now I probably forgot what I was gonna say.
Oh, no.
But anyway, I just remember reading something in the news about, when they had it like on Channel 15 or whatever about Belleville and New Glarus going together. And, Josh Westcott, who he's actually on leave now, I think, from our EMS, and he's over in Belleville, and I think he's like the deputy chief or something now, who, by the way, sat on the steering committee, which I think is kind of like a conflict of interest. He said that this has been in the works for years, off and on. So if it's been in the works for years, off and on, have anybody here ever heard of it, that we're going to do that?
Nope.
That's the townships.
Yeah, right. And the same way with, for instance, I've heard a lot of rumors around town. Things like, yes, the EMS isn't paying for their new ambulance, and they don't have any money in savings, and actually it's a bunch of BS. That's not so. And I can't even remember all of the things I've heard, but I do recall getting a letter, an email from the village administrator, Kelsey, telling me that some of the trustees have asked her to contact me because I've been talking about this with them at their place of work, and that it's really not fair for the employee or the employer to be discussing this stuff when they're working. So I responded to Kelsey and I told her that you might want to talk to Peggy about it, who is a trustee, because she was the one that brought it up to me first. And I remember distinctly, it was the morning of October 2nd. I'm out on my walk with my dog. I stopped into the toy store and Peggy happens to be working there. And Peggy said, "Sue, have you heard?" And I said, "No, heard what?" And she said, "Well, we're going with Belleville EMS." Well, I explained to Peggy that I didn't feel her enthusiasm about that. But, so I guess I really am not supposed to be discussing those things. But what I would like to say is I would think that there's a lot of people in town ought to quit jacking their jaws down at the bars about stuff they really know nothing about. And if you want to find out what's going on, ask the question. But be careful when you ask it, because if you ask it too often, even if they don't answer you, you can't do that. It's my understanding you could put a request for a record, you could write it on a piece of toilet paper and hand it in, and it's legal. But I was told that they really would like me to use the requests that they have online. And then, you talk about watching the videos. Well, I've watched pretty much all of the videos. But I was watching one of them, and I remember one of the trustees distinctly say to Kelsey and to the rest of the board, I think what we need to do is have an audit, because that's what people will understand is an audit. And I can talk to my neighbors and tell them we have an audit. Kelsey said, well, that's one thing that they haven't agreed to, basically. And then that trustee said, well, then I guess we should look elsewhere. No, that was a lie. I saw the contract that the EMS sent back to the village. They agreed to an audit. But I don't think that the village ever discussed that contract again. Not that we'd ever know, because it would be behind closed doors, which is what everything they did. So, that's mine. Gotta go.
Wait, oh, Susie. Hi, I just want to say it's wonderful to see all the turnout here, and I think this has been a great and really informative presentation. And I saw that perhaps you're taping this meeting or recording it in some way. So will that be made available for the people that could not be here so that they know what we can do?
Absolutely. It might be a little disjointed. We were taping it formally and the memory card was full, so taping informally, not quite as good, but...
Okay, and how will we find out where we can share this with our neighbors? Like, will it be YouTube or? Okay, sounds good.
Got another one in the back?
Thank you. One more question in the back row. We are, the custodial staff is gonna wanna clean up the room at 8 p.m. tonight. So if we could wrap up our discussions, that'd be great.
Thank you, by the way, a wonderful job. My question is, what's gonna happen if this transition does take place, when and if? What's gonna happen to these valuable, wonderful people on the staff? And what's gonna happen with all this expensive quality equipment that we have almost all paid for now?
Right, that's articles of dissolution. The village asked for our bylaws immediately as this discussion began. Can only assume that they were looking at the articles of dissolution to find out what that would mean. We can't answer that question right now. We're hoping, as Chief pointed out, to stay in business, to honor those contracts that were entered into in March of 25. It is our desire to continue serving this community. It's an honor and a privilege to do so. You're our friends and neighbors. And believe me, when the pager goes off, you don't want it to be somebody you know, but there's also, it feels good when you can help somebody you know.
But if you're the one who is needing the ambulance, it's also so good to have someone you know in that ambulance, serving you, not a stranger. I know I have to say thank you to Chief in front of everybody because we had to finally call 911. We've never had to do that, and let me tell you, they were having trouble finding us. Chief heard the call. She knew she was close to us. She directed that ambulance to us. And I want to thank you in front of everybody. Thank you very much.
I think she may have ripped out the bottom of her truck in your pasture before she turned the right direction.
Okay, so we have so EMS currently has a contract with the village. And now, so the EMS has a contract with the village. And now the village has a contract with Belleville. Which one takes precedence?
So, are you talking about because of the overlap? There is an overlap if you look at the official contract with Belleville by like basically 2 days. It says it takes effect December 29th. Officially, the existing contract with New Glarus EMS would take effect. Like legally, they've had this contract in place for many years. It goes until December 31st at 11:59 p.m. And then officially at 12 o'clock, January 1st is when Belleville EMS should officially take over.
So is it just a yearly contract?
Yeah, it's just a 1-year contract.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. I thought earlier you said it was a 3-year contract.
Yes.
Nuclear's, right, our contracts have been 3 years in
Okay.
duration,
Okay,
and that's what, this is lapsing, and we're entering into the 26, 27, 28 contract, and that's the one that they did not sign,
okay.
but rather, they signed with Belleville for a 1-year contract,
Okay, thank
and
you.
it's for 1 year, so we don't know what happens at the end of 1 year.
I just want to know, who are the board members and are they doing something? Okay, who are the board members and are they active in contacting the village too? I mean, you're all employees in a way, volunteer. But who sits on the board of the New Glarus EMS?
I'll turn that back to Chief. That was another accusation that was leveled, the village accused us of. Chief appoints all of our board members. As a member, I will assure you, it's a voted on matter. All of us as members elect our board members.
So our board members, wow, I took this.
Use it.
Our board members, currently our board members, you have Bill French in the back of the room. Recently put
It felt like I
on,
was applying for a job. Send in a letter, I had to be interviewed, and I really felt like, wow, I'm gonna get to do this.
recently added to the board were Matthew Waite. Matthew Waite is the clerk for the town of Primrose. He was not able to be here due to a surgery. EMT driver Sean Carlin, he is probably on his way back home still from vacation. Rachel Anderson is the board chair, and then also recently added to the board to fill our 5th position, Sue Mullen.
Well, as we close tonight, any further questions? I wanted to thank Alan DeYoung for sharing time with us. He's got a young family and came all the way from the Milwaukee area. So we truly appreciate all the miles you put on behalf of Wisconsin EMS, and particularly tonight. Thank you. And a sincere appreciation to each and every one of you that took time to spend with us tonight to learn more about this situation. We didn't come here with a lot of answers. I think we stood before you with a lot of questions ourselves. Know that we want to serve. Again, we're not throwing rocks at Belleville EMS. They're fine people. They are. How this has come about is not so fine. And we just would like a chance to, as a group, discuss how we can move forward together or separately. So.
Thank you.
All the members of New Glarus EMS who are here, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
guys see us on our work day. So we appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, and if you could again, just please share your concerns with, again, the town and the village, and let's see if we can move this time forward.
But make sure you use the form.
Sue can share the cease and desist letter she received from the village lawyer, just in case you wanted to see one before you get it yourself.
They
Again,
inundate them with FOIA requests, Freedom of Information requests, inundate them.
thank you. Thank you all for coming this evening.
Thank you for the info.